raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Hey, welcome back to the Men Talking Mindfulness show, where we get into the heart of what makes us tick. I'm John McCaskill out here in Colorado Springs. That's my brother from another mother, my podcast co-host, Will Schneider. Today, we're going to be tackling a topic that is a silent stressor in many of our lives, our schedules. Are we in control, or are we merely puppets dancing to the tune of our endless to-dos? In this episode, we'll explore how our relationship with time management impacts our mental health, productivity, and our overall well-being. So let's jump in and find out if we are truly running our schedules, or if in fact they are running us. Before we do that though, a couple of announcements. We've talked about our merch store. It is open. It's at mentalkingmindfulness.com/shop. We've got hats, we've got coffee mugs, tumblers, and more. So check that out. Again, it's mentalkingmindfulness.com/shops. We've also got our new retreat coming up in May 16th through the 19th of 2024. It's out here in Colorado Springs at the beautiful Glen Erie Castle right next to the Garden of the Gods. And you can get more information about that by texting the letters Be Well, so BWELL to 33777. That's BWELL to 33777 to get more information on that. And then lastly, as I say on every episode, help us to grow the show, not just so that we can be influencers, but so that we can grow the influence of mindfulness and meditation in other people's lives. We are on various social media. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. Follow us there and share what we're doing there. And that's it. Quick down and dirty intro. Will, good to see you, brother. Again, we just recorded another episode. Just so you guys know who are listening now, we're recording this, what's today? Wednesday, November 15th, because next Wednesday is the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving, and we're going to keep it short and sweet, but we wanted to get something out there for you guys on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but we didn't want to record on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So Will and I are taking some time off for ourselves because we want to practice what we preach. And that said, Will, good to see you, even though I just saw you like 20 minutes ago when we did our self-reflection.
That was a live episode. Hopefully, as you listen to this, you listen to our last one about the power and importance of self-reflection. And then, my God, we have what do we have coming up? I might as well just tease it all, John.
Yeah, we've got
this guy, Dr. B, Dr. Brandy's right here, the 21st century man. Yes. Yeah, there you go, urologist. And, so that's coming up in a couple weeks. I'm excited to have him on. It's
that'll
great
be our
to be back.
Season finale.
Yeah, I think it's going to be our season finale. We're going to have, we're going to take the month off of December, it looks like, and, give ourselves some break. But we're going to, queue up some episodes for all of you to keep, keep it flowing, keep your mind working, and you keep improving out there by leveraging Men Talking Mindfulness and the mindfulness that we teach.
That's right.
So let's do just do 3 breaths. We're going to do.
Yeah.
Let's do 3 breaths. We'll do just do the parachute breath. We'll take that really swift inhale. Sounds like this. And let it go out. Let's just do 3 more of those. I know I said 3, but we're going to do these 3 now. In. Out easy. Really elongate, exaggerate, and luxuriate in that exhale, and do 2 more. And use that long exhale just to help you find more peace, more grounding, and kind of tap you deeper into the moment. And 1 more in. Slowly out. Heavier. Let go a little bit more. And there we are. And let's jump in, John. Fantastic. I love doing the solos. I mean, I love our guests. Fun. Like they're always fun and dynamic and so interesting. But me and you rapping around this stuff is just
fun, man.
I look for
less stress, and we don't have to worry about their schedules and our schedules and rescheduling and all that other stuff. I mean, in talking about schedules, quite often that can help to drive the show as the guest's time and availability. But you and I know we almost always have these time blocks open, so it's nice to just rely on you and your schedule and mine and my schedule. So man, let's talk about schedules. The calendars, the phone calendars, the computer calendars, the physical calendars that we all have. They're great because they do help us to keep us on track, but quite often we end up being busy instead of productive, and we convince ourselves that we're being productive because we have full calendars. We have back-to-back Zoom calls, we have back-to-back lunch meetings, we have so many things that fill our schedule from when we wake up until when we go to sleep in the evening.
Well, can you make a distinction there, John, quick? What's the difference between busy and being productive? Like, how would you define that?
Yeah, for sure. So, and I'm glad you asked that, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is being busy. It just means that you're occupied with your tasks, with your to-do list, with activities. In my mind, that are not necessarily getting you towards a larger goal, right? And the other side of that is being productive, and that's working towards, getting small stepping stones towards your ultimate goal. And I think that's the difference. And productivity is about, the proverbial work smarter, not harder. That's what productivity is all about. I'm going to give myself a shameless plug here. This is what I use to stay productive, and it's
the Scrum,
the Scrum on the Go board. It's my own product that I developed, but it keeps me on track. And I know it kind of got blurred there with the green screen, but it keeps me, as far as what I'm doing, what needs to be done, and ultimately what is done. But
it's also in the visual space. I think that's really important, John. Instead of being in the digital space all the time, and because anytime I get onto my computer, what else? Where else am I going to go? To my email, to whatever social media, to something else that I was working on that I didn't finish before. So I love that Scrum on the Go. Scrum on the Go, everybody, buy one.
There you go. Scrum on the Go.
I'll do it for you. Scrum on the Go. Of course, but it's visual, and it's an easy way to track what you're doing. But keep going.
Yeah, and real quick, just take a look at your green screen there, buddy. It looks like.
Do I got some shit going on?
Well, you got like a little white patch on you.
Oh.
Not sure if it's.
Wait, is that it's the light somewhere? Okay.
There we go, because we don't record at this time.
Oh yeah. It's that time of day right now, John.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take this down.
All right.
Okay.
So there's also the saying of busyness versus business, and so many people get those two confused too. They're like, oh man, I had so many meetings today, I did this and that today. I'm like, okay, well, how did that advance you towards your goals? And that's where we need to try to be smarter, not harder, or working smarter, not harder, in accepting meetings that don't necessarily advance us and our goals and our mission. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy a social meeting as well every once in a while, a social call just to have some fun. But I realize that that's exactly what that's for. And if I have all days, all social calls, and then I'm like, well, hey, I was really busy today. No, I wasn't. I guess I was busy, but I wasn't productive. So managing that, but it's also there's I think it's almost like a badge of courage or a badge of honor that so many people wear because they're so busy. They don't have time to meditate, right? They don't have time to work out because they're so busy. But when they really do an audit of their time and what it is they're doing with their time, they're not as busy, or rather they're not as productive as they think. They're busy, yes, but they're busy wasting their time. So I think sometimes, even that can say something about someone's mental state. What is it? Why are they busy? Are they busy because they're working towards something, or are they busy because they want to be wearing that badge of honor, or are they busy because they're scared of, I don't know, maybe sometimes you're scared of facing something else. Maybe you're scared of being quiet and doing self-reflection, which our whole last episode was on.
It's true.
You fill your time. and it's easy to fill your time, and then at the end of the day just fall asleep because you've literally filled every single minute, but you haven't done any self-reflection, anything of any courage. It's pretty wild what seeing someone's schedule can even say about their mental state. I had a boss, I won't name names, but he was one of my bosses later in my career. Man, he filled his schedule up to where, like, you literally had to schedule a 5-minute meeting with him like 2-3 weeks out. And it was completely ineffective as far as a leader. You couldn't address anything that needed to be addressed in the moment because he just didn't have time. And you gotta, not only do you need to schedule your events that you have, but you have to schedule some white space on your calendar. What I mean by white space is intentionally setting time aside to do nothing, but also intentionally set aside time to potentially fill it in case of an emergency, right? An emergency meeting, emergency call, some type of thing. You need to have those spaces. It's life. And if you fill your schedule from when you wake up until when you go to bed, every single second is accounted for, then when things do pop up, which they inevitably will, you're going to get stressed out even more. So scheduling things and putting it on your calendar, it's great, but you also need to allow for some flexibility in your schedule and in your life.
Yeah, I feel like now I'm thinking of men and masculinity. I think like that whole busy badge that you're talking about we wear is just like it's a shitty virtue signaling. It's like, God, I'm so important. I'm so this, I'm so that, and then for like, you talk about this, a leader, like just think about a leader that you can't see for 5 minutes, 3 weeks out,
Right.
And it's just like, I mean, that's ineffective. I mean, that's completely ineffective. And it's like, but I guarantee he has time, or he'll make time for some sort of emergency that pops up, or, something that he wants to do. Like, you know what, fuck, I'm going to go golf day or something.
It's all about priorities.
Right. Exactly. And it's, but it's also, I feel that busyness also speaks to the very transactional way that men can be. Just like, well, you can't get on my calendar now. It's like, oh, this is just, it's transactional. Instead of a human being wanting to speak to you, instead of talking about ideas and being creative and coming up with solutions together, you almost like put yourself at like a higher esteem than other people. And just like, and in a transactional way, it's like, well, you're going to have to wait for 3 weeks to get on my schedule for 5 minutes. And it's just like, like, why would you, it's gotta be difficult. It must've been difficult, or was it difficult to work with someone like that?
Oh, it was incredibly difficult. And I know it was difficult for him too, because there were emergencies that popped up. So when an emergency popped up, he had to cancel something that he had scheduled. And now, he had to reschedule that for another 3 months down the road or whatever. It allowed him no flexibility.
Yeah. I'd hate to be his assistant.
Yes. Oh man.
You know what I mean?
Felt really bad for his assistant.
Dude, it's let's find those 5 minutes, and like making 9 different calls to like, 9 different people in order to like fit somebody in. I mean, it's just I think you're right, John. Like that's a big, I think it's giving yourself that break. And we talk how important it is to take mindful breaks. Like I just clipped up one of our videos, and we have a great snippet of you talking about the importance of mindful breaks, like within Zoom calls and avoiding Zoom fatigue. Just taking even that 5 minutes, 10 minutes of like, instead of scheduling an hour, schedule 50 minutes, and then afterwards it's like, go to the restroom, like, maybe take a walk, like do some breathing. I love, doing some stretching or just kind of getting back, staying fresh and honoring, I think it's a big thing about mindfulness that we keep coming back to on the show here is honoring our biology.
Right.
Like if we push it too far, we burn out, we get frustrated, we start making shitty decisions. We're not the person we can be. Our creativity goes offline. We're in a state of stress. Like it's just not helpful at all. It's just
right.
Zero.
Oh no, exactly. And we talked about what somebody's schedule or their calendar says about their mental state. But then if they actually stick to that completely full calendar all the time, what does that do to their mental state, right? And you talked about fatigue. Talked about irritability, but it causes anxiety, it causes stress, which is quite manageable. If you manage your schedule, you can manage that part of your anxiety and stress.
Right.
You know, it can decrease your productivity. So many people who are putting in, you know, X number of hours per week. Different people have different number of hours that they're productive, but some of us are way past that point of diminishing returns. And you know, the magic hour supposedly is 36 hours. If you work more than 36 hours a week, which many of us do, if you work more than 36 hours, you're actually decreasing your productivity. And then once you work past like 50 or 60, you actually have a negative return on your time. So you know, having a decline in your productivity, but also you have a decline in your personal life, right? I mean, you have no personal life if you work over 60 hours a week.
And you're probably like, one thing we've learned, you know, is stacking. Like if you just keep stacking and don't give your time that opportunity to take that break, like you're carrying that shit everywhere, carrying it into your next meeting, carrying it into your family, carrying it into your workout, you know, and it's just like, and how productive, you know, and that should be valuable time as well. And you should need to respect the people that are in those conversations with you, you know, instead of just being wrapped up in, you know, I'm too busy whole attitude and way of being, and, you know, kind of organizing your life around that whole mantra. It's destructive.
Absolutely, it is. And you know, stacking it, you bring it into your home life, but you bring it into your sleep, right?
Yes, exactly.
And
goes everywhere.
That affects your sleep. It affects your deep sleep. It affects your REM. It affects your ability to recover. So then the next day, you're even that much further behind the power curve. You know, what does it do to your physical health? Because now you don't have time to get to the gym. You don't have time to meditate for your mental health, your mental well-being. Ultimately, you're just a machine. You're a robot. You're not a human.
Right.
You're not living the life that we're meant to live. You're just working. What is it? Living to work instead of working to live, or vice versa. I may have that backwards, but basically, you're earning a paycheck, and you're working towards the weekends, if that. And I know I've been guilty of that myself. Is I work myself into a hole trying to make enough money to cover my life expenses that I incur on. I put them on myself. As a matter of fact, my wife and I. We sat down a few weeks ago. We have a farm. We've got 3 kids. We both work full time. And we both sat down and we're like, you know what? We need to simplify because our schedules are just overloaded. And we're going to be moving from the farm. I don't know if I've told you that, Will, but we're going to be selling the farm. You
mentioned the initial thought, but what's the next step?
So
you guys are taking the steps?
Yeah, so we're taking the steps. We're fixing up the house as you know, tradition always is you fix up a house right before you sell it. So we're doing the painting, we're doing the remodeling and all the things to get the house ready to sell. And we're moving the horses from our farm to a boarding facility so that we don't have to worry about that, so that we can enjoy them instead of just being manure,
shoveling shit,
instead of just shoveling shit. Yeah. So I mean, we're doing that because we have let our schedules run us recently, and it takes away from our enjoyment as human beings. It takes away from our enjoyment as a couple. It takes away from our enjoyment as a family, as parents. And man, it has deeply affected us. But now we noticed it because we did some reflection, self-reflection and couples reflection, and we realized, hey, you know what? We need to take a step back. We've bitten off more than we can chew here. Not necessarily financially. I mean, part of it is financial, but it's mostly time and energy. Excuse me. That time and energy, you have to manage that too. Those are finite sources or resources, and once we burn those out, then we burn ourselves out. So you know, we have a lack of enjoyment.
Well, congrats to getting to that place. Like normally everyone's like bigger, better, growing, more.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, one of the principles of Stoicism is minimalism.
Right.
You know, I mean, you only access and live with what you need, you know, instead of, you know, I mean, it's not like I've been to your house, I've been to your farm, and it's not like it's beautiful, and I'm sure the kids are loving it. And
it is,
but
beautiful.
It's like right. It's awesome. I mean, you can see what Pikes Peak, is that what it is? What's the
Pikes Peak? You can see it
Pikes
right
Peak
from
out your window.
Man.
It's like it's beautiful and disgusting for a New Yorker, you know, to see how John's big ass bay window, and you're like, that's the fucking mountain. I look out the window and I see my neighbor's plants and some like graffiti across the street on some whatever. But anyway,
but then you can also walk down the stairs, and you can get some of the best food in the country or best food in the world. So
exactly. So there, obviously give and take, but that's great, John. I mean, I'm happy. That's a great example of like, do you, like what's I think also what's here is like coming back to what's important.
Yeah, exactly.
What's important, right? And creating, but also the buckets of what's important. So it's not just all work all the time, make money, make more money. It's like, what about the family? What about my health? What about, new adventures or something like that? What about exploring new relationships or something? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, we want to talk about, ways to kind of manage your schedule. And in managing your schedule, you have to prioritize your tasks, like daily tasks. You have to prioritize, okay, what am I going to get done? This is going to take priority over that. But again, going to the macro level, where are your priorities? Is your priority in having the ridiculously expensive car that you really can't afford, the ridiculously expensive house that you really can't afford?
And John, who's that for? Yeah, who's that for too?
Exactly. Who is it for? It's to impress people that you don't even know. Right. Often, what's the saying? It's like so many people are going to spend so much of their life working to acquire things to impress people that they don't know, or something to that effect. But bottom line is, we do that. We want a nice car so that we can drive down the road and impress people that are on the road with us.
Another quote coming up for really quick, John, is like, the cost of everything but the value of nothing.
Yes. Right.
And it's just like, hey, I have a $75,000 new Tesla, whatever it is. Look at me. And the value, the cost that it takes, from personally your time, this and that. It's like, that's, is that value? Is it really bringing you value? That makes a difference. So keep going. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. I was trying to look up that quote real quick. Let's see.
Go for it.
I'll find it here in a minute, but I'll come back to it. But we're talking about prioritizing. So let's talk about ways to recalibrate, like when we are feeling overwhelmed. So we have to prioritize our tasks. The Scrum on the Go board, that's a great way to prioritize, or whatever you use, your to-do list, but sit down and write.
Can we take one step back and let's talk about what the experience of overwhelm is like? Because maybe that's just like, that could just be an idea for people, but like, identifying will help identify overwhelm. And then it's just like, I need to reprioritize because of overwhelm. So let's talk about, let's just dive in there for a second, because that's in that emotional realm, which is like so incredibly important to be more mindful and then to make changes based on those emotional experiences. So let's dive into what overwhelm looks like.
Feeling overwhelm, I believe overwhelm is like a combination of anxiety, stress, and maybe even depression at the same time. You just get inundated with feelings that you have to get everything done by a certain amount of time. I remember I was one job that I was working. It was crazy hours back in the SEAL teams, and I ended up staying until 8:30, 9:30 at night at times, and eventually my boss, he comes in for a late night thing, and he's like, "John, what are you still doing here?" I was like, hey boss, I'm trying to finish all my tasks for the day. He's like, "John, you will never finish everything. You got to get past that. And all the things that you didn't finish, they're going to be here again tomorrow. So go ahead and get home." But that overwhelm, man, that it physiologically, what it feels like, like there's a weight on your chest or on your shoulders. And it feels like by getting through these tasks in a day that you're going to be able to put that weight down. But in all honesty, what you're doing is you're just running yourself into the ground.
And you're creating more overwhelm. You know. So I looked up. Here's this is a wiki definition. Overwhelm. It says three definitions here, and they're all verbs. Right. To engulf, surge over, or submerge. Right. Another synonym would be like feeling swamped. Like think of, you mentioned feeling crushed or swamped. Right. Another one is to overpower or crush. So being crushed, by like all the work you need to do. And then down last one, it says here to overpower emotionally. So like, you're just completely you can't even get control of yourself emotionally because you're so overwhelmed by, the life that you're trying to make for yourself. So you might want to think about that life,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I got the quote, man. The quote that
Yeah.
so
Go for
it's
it, yeah.
we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
America. Just put America underneath that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's
goddamn, does that speak to America?
Yeah,
Sadly.
and that's unfortunately it's being attributed to Edward Norton from Fight Club, and it's also being attributed to Dave Ramsey, the money manager. So so I don't know. It's one of the others, but the bottom line is we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
Yeah. Well, Fight Club's a great movie. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, don't talk about it though. Don't talk about it.
Oh no, we don't talk about Fight Club.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
We didn't talk about anything. We got to delete that part of the broadcast.
But yeah, okay. So what else, man? With managing that overwhelm and that feeling of the weight on your chest and the anxiety, the stress that comes with that. Another thing is that so many people try to do so much so fast, right? They're like, oh well, this person, they wrote a book, they have a movie, they have a podcast, they have this and this and this. By the time they're 45, that means I need to have it by the time I'm 45. Well, everybody's timeline is different, right? Everybody's timeline is different. And again, prioritizing the task. Do you have to write a book? Do you have to have a movie? Do you have to have a podcast? And I'm just obviously using those as examples, but maybe you have different goals. Maybe you have a manager or a leader at work that you've seen achieve different goals in a particular timeline, and you think that's your timeline. It doesn't have to be your timeline. Your timeline could be different. You've got to set realistic goals based on what you're able to achieve in your life with what you have going on. Again, coming back to my example with my family, like we were like, hey, you know what? We want to have a farm, and it worked for a while. But then we took a step back and we realized, you know what, right now is not the time for it. It's not a realistic timeline. It's great to have a farm, but we're not even enjoying it. We're not even enjoying it.
Yeah,
so we have
great.
to.
That's a great point right there.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying your life? And if you're not, then you might want to reprioritize. Yeah.
Are you enjoying the things that you work towards, right? Like we're working towards owning a farm that we don't even have the time to enjoy. So because we're working so hard to pay for it and everything. So, what else? Taking breaks. We've talked about that before, and we'll continue to talk about that. Is the burnout that we have because we have scheduled back to back Zoom calls or meetings or whatever. Taking those 10, 15-minute breaks so that you can process the meeting that you just had. Take 2 or 3 minutes to do a bio break, go use the restroom, maybe do some stretching, maybe a couple push-ups or squats or whatever, and then prepare for the next meeting. So taking those breaks, do a walk, walk around the hallway or walk around outside. That's fantastic. We also have to really get better at saying no. We've talked about that on the show too before. That saying no is
boundaries. Yeah,
having the boundaries. Exactly. You don't have to don't get me wrong, I enjoy LinkedIn and I enjoy all the connections that I have on there. But man, every single person that reaches out and requests a meeting, it's impossible to take all those. You have to learn to say no to some of those meetings, right? And sometimes no, like I've said in the past, no is a complete sentence. Just say, you know what? No, I'm sorry, I can't take that meeting. So you've got to set those boundaries there. You've got to delegate when possible, and I want to say when possible and appropriate. I mean, there's some times when you don't want to delegate a task to someone who doesn't have the capabilities.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah. So delegate it when it makes sense. You got to share the load. Don't take it all on yourself. Those are some of the things that I wanted to mention. What anything that you got in your mind on ways to maybe manage that overwhelm?
Well, it's just one thing about burnout. I think there's like 6 different ways of burnout or symptoms of burnout. One is values alignment. So if your values aren't aligned, if you have a values of like, I want to have this kind of life, and do these kind of things and really and live this kind of way. And if what you're doing isn't aligned with those values or who you're working with, or the people that or the company you work for isn't aligned with that thing, then you're going to constantly feeling that burnout and that overwhelm and that stress, because there's also a lack of respect there, and for yourself and by other people, if like if those values aren't aligned. So
Right.
like, again, maybe take some stock. Like, if this is really resonating with you, and you're feeling that overwhelm, and you're just like, oh my God, my, like, who's in control of my schedule, or am I in control of my schedule?
Yeah.
And if you feel like the answer is, my schedule is controlling me, then maybe it's time to take a step back, and really, take a look. I mean, I love the example, John, of what you're doing with your life. It's like, what? Love the farm's not working. I need to change. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not lowering your status. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I got rid of my farm. John must be in the poorhouse, right? I mean, no, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Right.
like, but like, if you're constantly trying to seek also that external validation in order to, prop up all the, the I'm too busy mantra, then fuck, like, I would seriously, maybe go to a therapist, go to some, like, work with some sort of coach, like work with John or I, and like really start to evaluate what's really valuable to you, and then start moving in that direction, because it's like, and sometimes it's like, I think we also get wrapped up by supporting all the things in our life, like you kind of mentioned, that we just, and it just becomes a bad habit in a lot of ways, and also you might be surrounding yourself with people that support that bad habit, because they're doing the same things, and they're living that whole "I'm too busy" mantra to really, to really live a full, enriching, fulfilling life. So if that's like your friends, then you might, how are their values aligning with your overall values? So just something to think about there, because it just check in with yourself emotionally, I think is really key here. And if you're feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, or any kind of negative symptom, because of the work that you're doing, then you maybe change the way you're doing the work, change the way you're scheduling the work, maybe set those boundaries and say no, and really prioritize what's really important to you.
Yeah, man. Well, talking about setting boundaries, there's setting boundaries, and then there's also respecting boundaries, right?
Yes.
So
on both ends, your own and others.
Exactly.
Yes.
So like as a leader, as a coworker, one of the things that these things, and for those of you who are listening and can't see right now, I'm holding up my cell phone. One of the things that the cell phone has done is we're constantly connected, which is, there's benefits to that, but there's a downside to it, in that it's kind of like a leash tying you to, or maybe not even a leash, like a chain tying you to work continually.
Or it could be like an anchor trying to drown you. Right? You know what I mean? Think of it that way. Like, just like, because again, what's like, swamped, overwhelmed is like a swamping feeling, getting crushed, submerged.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're feeling you're being pulled down your technology, but keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're being pulled down and we're being pulled back. Kind of the image is the anchor kind of pulling you back to work over and over, even when you're outside of work. Well, you have to respect your boundaries, or set your boundaries, and then respect others. And what I mean by that is, quite often you'll be sitting on your couch and something will pop into your mind about work. And Will, you and I know we do this both. We both, like, I'll text you at all hours, and vice versa. But then sometimes we'll both take a step back and be like, hey, it's the weekend. I'm sorry, man. I'll re-engage on Monday, or vice versa. But if you send a text as a boss, as a leader, if you send a text to somebody at 9 p.m. at night and they receive it, guess what? Even if you do not, as a leader, expect a response, guess what they think that you expect? They think that you expect a response right then. So if you are going to send a message at hours outside of working hours, maybe put something on the front end of it saying, hey, look, I'm just sending this out because it's on my mind right now. Please know that I do not need a response until tomorrow morning, or something to that effect. If you're sending an email, type that email and then do the delayed send, right? There's the scheduled send option on most email applications these days. So write it up while it's on your mind, but then delay the send, because again, the expectation is that there's an immediate response. Now, the inverse side of that same coin if you reply, if you are the recipient of that text and you reply, or if you're the recipient of that email and you reply, now the expectation is that you are always on. You work all the time. So if you get that text, if you get that email at 9 p.m., don't respond right away so that you don't set that expectation. So that's another piece of managing those boundaries, setting and managing and respecting those boundaries on both sides of those coins.
And I think also that respect piece, John, it goes both ways.
For sure.
Like, so if you're, if you're, oh God, I just think of these leaders sometimes. It's like, because they, maybe their home life is crappy and they're trying to run from their wife or something like that, or like remove themselves from a bad situation and throw yourself into work. And therefore, if I'm working and I'm a leader and I'm egocentric and the world revolves around me, then everyone needs to be working. So I'm sending those messages at 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, expecting a response. It's like, but also it's like, if you're on the receiving end of that, and it's just like, look, I mean, you do a great job at this with this, John. I mean, I've been working together for a long time. It's like, look, like Friday or Saturday, whatever. It's like, that's my family time. I can't do that. There's maybe an exception here or there, but overall, it's like hard rule. And if you have that boss that just like, sending you late text messages, like, look, maybe just have a real conversation with him, like, after 6 when I leave, like, I need to focus my time, my energy, my emotional bandwidth to be with my family. And I just can't, I have, the contract, like the work that I signed up to do is between these hours. So, I just can't do that. So like, respect yourself. And therefore by respecting yourself, it's amazing how people start respecting you because you set that boundary.
Right.
And then that actually might give them an opportunity to set that boundary for themselves as well, or just to realize that they're not the only person in the universe. So,
yeah. And, being that I mentioned the phones, and I'm again holding up my phone here, that they are great tools. There's apps that are out there to keep you on track, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But they can be a trap as well. You pick up, like Will and I just partnered with this one company that creates the Mighty Player. And the Mighty Player is literally like the old iPod Shuffle, but it's a Bluetooth version. So. And it connects to Spotify and Amazon Music. And the reason we partnered with them is that you can use it to listen to guided meditations. Now, what's so great about listening to guided meditations on these things? Well, you can literally listen to it without the distraction. You get on your phone
without
and you
screen.
It's got a screen, it's got social media, it's got your emails, it's got all the notifications on it, and you sit down to meditate and you get sucked into that. And then suddenly, before you know it, the time is gone that you had set aside to meditate, and now you quote unquote don't have time to meditate. So there's a constant distraction, whether it's from distracting you from meditation, or if it's distracting you from getting your stuff done. You sit down to type up an email, or you sit down to put together a PowerPoint, whatever it is that you do, and you open up your phone and you get a notification about, hey, here's a new funny reel on Instagram, and you watch that one reel, and then you spend 30 minutes scrolling through all the other reels. You get distracted, so you got to watch out for the trap. We also
we're in exactly. Information. We're in an attention economy, John.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
All we're trying to do is like, or is everyone's trying to get our attention, and it's just like, how are you? Respecting yourself as a human being that can only take in so much, only have so much time, and only can do so much with what you have.
Yeah. And what I say when I teach the digital detox in some of my classes is that if you get all these things for free, if you get Facebook for free, if you get Instagram for free, if you get YouTube for free, guess what the product is? You are the product, right?
The only two businesses that call their people users are drug dealers, right? Your user if you used our drugs, or social media.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. So watch out for that. And then there's also with the phone, there's a desire or even a push to multitask, right? You can check your email while you're checking your social media, while you're watching YouTube, while you're doing this and that. So multitasking can also burn you out. and it can keep you from actually accomplishing something. It keeps you from getting into that state of flow, which if you want to get through things, you want to get into that state of flow. That's going to get you into that productivity. So multitasking keeps you from getting into that, and those digital assets can really keep you, not digital assets, but digital tools rather, can keep you from getting into that state of flow. Now the flip side is that you can on your phone manage your notifications. On your email, you can put an out of office, like when you leave at 5 p.m. or whatever time it is that you leave work. Maybe your email, you just don't turn it on, and two, you have an out of office reply so that people know, hey, after working hours, this person is not available for emails. You can also do that on your text. Like, Will, I'm sure you've received, the message from me that says, hey, I'm either away from my phone or I'm focused on something else. I use the driving function even when I'm not driving. That's where you can change the message. So if I have my driving on my phone, my driving function on, then that's the message that everybody receives. But that also lets them know that I'm kind of unavailable during that time. And then doing a regular digital detax. And ironically, there are apps to help with digital detox, and we've talked about that before. Like the one that I've used and you've used before, Will, is Forest, where you literally you set a time away from your phone, and as you're away from your phone for some amount of time, they plant a little tree and it grows into a bigger tree and eventually a forest. And if you grow a certain number of forests, these digital forests, being away from your phone, they will literally plant a tree on your behalf, which is kind of cool. So there's things that we can do to manage our time and our schedule that do include our phone, but sometimes just getting away from your phone is the best thing. I completely agree. Let's keep, I was going to say something about the phone. Let's just keep rolling. I mean, this phone, again, just like we said earlier, like the question I ask when I talk about phones and stuff is who's in control of your technology, you or is your technology in control of you? Yeah. And again, if the answer is go ahead. Yeah. I mean, the title of the show, your schedule, are you running it or is it running you? Just replace your technology, replace schedule with technology.
Right. Exactly. And it's I mean, sometimes set that boundary of respect. I just don't reply right away sometimes, if it's not needed, I'll wait a day, depending on what it is, and when I do reply and I really give a full answer, and sometimes I don't even I'm not into that whole apology thing. Oh, hey, sorry for the delay. I'm so busy. I'm just I just answer the fucking text, I don't have to put a disclaimer in front of it,
Sure.
I mean, unless it's been, I mean, you have to know your audience and
whatever
it is.
Course.
But
if you answer me, if it takes you a week to answer me, I expect a response. I'm kidding.
Oh no, it would never be that long. You know what I mean? For me and you, but it's I usually I'm not it
I'm
might
just
be 2 days.
Shit, man.
Yeah. But I'm saying overall, it's only a couple, a day or two that typically I get back to somebody, or I just forget about it, and if it's important enough and they want your attention, then they'll text you.
They'll hit you again. So, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right on, man. Well, let's with the kind of theme of managing our schedule, and then also with the theme and the idea that this is the pre-Thanksgiving show, and wanting to respect everybody else's time. Let's start to wrap it up, man. Mm-hmm. Keep it short and sweet. I know there's plenty of other things that we could talk about, but I want to manage and respect your schedule and manage and respect my schedule. So let's practice what we preach here and bring it to a close. If you have any,
how about? Yeah, go ahead, John.
No, for our audience, if you have any tips, tricks of ways to manage your schedule to keep it from running you, throw that in the comments on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're watching this or wherever you're listening to it. Throw it in the comments and let us know how you keep your schedule from running you. And
we also have on the back end. We need to start using this, John. Is you can ask a question on the back of our Spotify feed.
On Spotify,
you can be like, you know what I mean? So that's so maybe even, connect with us wherever you're receiving this live or wherever you're seeing this post. But you can also comment and kind of begin to populate the podcast feed with your suggestions, because I'm sure what you're using and in order to manage your time and and to stay present and stay calm and stay effective, would definitely be help someone else. And John and I don't have all the answers. We're just
Not
here
at all.
We're just here. Hey, we're here to create the conversations and help to, help anyone that's listening to, wake up a little bit to how they can change. But that doesn't mean we have all the answers. So,
well, right on. Well, hey, for our audience, thanks for joining us. And, if you're listening the day before Thanksgiving, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And we'll wrap it up with a closing practice and then call it good. And we'll have one more episode this season with Dr. Brandeis. We're looking forward to that on November 29th. That will be pre-recorded on November 28th, aired on November 29th. And then we'll call it done until season 8. Season 8 is here, or will be.
Till 2024.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And that's okay.
Well, right on. Well, for those listening, let's do that closing practice. Let's tune in to where we are and when we are, noticing how we feel physically and emotionally in this time and space. And just bring your attention to your breath, not forcing it, but just being aware of it. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest and belly as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Noticing how the air feels as you breathe in versus how it feels as you breathe out. Just take a second to just be quiet and just be in this time and in this space. And we'll wrap it up with one deep cleansing breath together. Begin by exhaling. Deep breath in, filling from the belly into the chest. Hold and release. And as you release, start to bring some movement back into your body. Maybe moving your fingers around, rolling your head, rolling your shoulders, and blinking your eyes open if they were closed. And Will, thank you, brother, for this episode. And for our audience, thank you for tuning in. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We wish you the best. Thank you for listening. And if you got anything out of this show, please share it with your friends, your family, whoever you think needs to hear it. And yeah, that's all I got. Will, anything?
No. Hey, no, just a big thanks to everybody. And, stay grounded, stay centered. The more mindful you become, the more you practice mindfulness, the more you're going to become aware is if who's running your schedule, you, or your schedule's running you.
That's right.
So practice. And, hey, we have dozens of meditations here on our podcast feed. Maybe that's one that you can kind of drop in. And if you're feeling like, oh, I'm too busy, then definitely drop in and start meditating.
For sure.
So you can realize you buy back time by meditating and being more mindful, for sure. So
yeah, what is it? If you don't have time to meditate for an hour a day, then you should meditate for 2 hours a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's
I think that's a little extreme, but
yeah, right. Well, at least you'll wake up in some ways by doing that. So
well,
awesome,
happy Thanksgiving
John.
to you too, brother.
Thank you.
Great to see you, and thanks for all you do to make this show great. And we'll talk to you all soon. Until next time, peace.
Thanks, everybody. Peace. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.